Welcome everyone, Built Out here. I am super excited about this video. In this video, we're going to talk about PMO leadership support, lack of a seat at the leadership table. So not really having a seat at that leadership table, which is a huge problem. So I want to set some context. If you've been watching my videos for a while, you know I do both PMO and project management videos. The context of today's video is really around project management. I've been doing this for a long time. My first PMO was in 2002. I've ran 10 PMOs across 4 companies, so I have been in this spot. I love this topic. I love it because it's so serious, and I've actually been in both spots. I've had amazing PMO leadership support, and I've had not so great PMO leadership support. So I know how important this is. And so I want to jump right into this topic because I really want to make sure that I can provide you the best practices and the things that I've been doing to help get that leadership support so you're not in that same spot. Why is this a problem though? Well, I don't have leadership support, so what? What does that mean? Well, let me jump into why it's such a problem. When PMO leaders don't have executive leadership support, they struggle to run a successful organization. I can't stress that enough. If you're a PMO director or a PMO leader or a PMO manager and you don't get access to the leadership team, you're really missing out on key elements of where this organization's going. If you're not sitting at that table and being able to provide advice, support, and really understanding what's going on, you're going to be in a much tougher spot to run your organization and really keep that alignment. Right? We've talked about that in other videos, that organizational alignment to the PMO structure. This is really critical in this spot as well, right? Number 2, when PMO leaders don't have a seat at the leadership table, they don't get to weigh in. They don't get to make decisions. They don't get to factor their organization into the direction of the company. That's a huge problem for PMO leaders, right? If you don't understand what projects are going on, where the company's heading, how could you possibly understand how your PMO, which is running the major programs and projects, how can your PMO support where you're going in the future and where the company's going? Number 3, without that insight or that strategy of the organization, it's going to be really difficult for PMO managers to prepare their PMO for the needs and the hiring of what that's possibly coming. So what do we mean by that? What hiring do I need? If the company's going in one direction, and do I have the right staff to be able to support that, right? Do I have the right programs? Do I have the right projects? Do I have to create new programs and projects? So an understanding or not understanding the strategic direction of the company really puts you in a bad spot around not understanding what you need to hire for, what programs and projects you need to create and really get set up, or even what tools or reports you're going to need. Does that make sense? Have you guys seen that before happen, right? Again, comment below. I'm really interested if you have a seat at that leadership table. Okay, so why are we in this mess, right? So why is it so important, and why do sometimes PMO leaders not get that seat at that leadership table? Well, let me jump in it. After 20 years of running PMOs, 10 PMOs across 4 companies, why do we get in this mess? Well, number 1, first, there's countless reasons, but sometimes, and I'm going to go to number 1 here, being it's not the PMO leader's fault. Sometimes it's a person that the PMO leader's running up to. They don't value the PMO leader to the point that they want them to have that seat at that leadership table, right? Sometimes the executive leader just simply doesn't connect with that PMO leader, just doesn't connect with that person, and therefore they don't feel like they merit having them in those discussions. I'll tell you what programs and projects to run. I'll tell you what tools you need. And so sometimes it doesn't reflect, or it's not the PMO leader themselves. It's often and can be the executive that the PMO leader runs to or reports to. Number 2, sometimes the PMO leaders are their worst enemies and put themselves in this position where they run too much around process, too much around tools, too much around really the execution of the PMO, and they're too rigid and they're just too structured and they don't value the relationships. PMOs are marathons, they're not sprints. So you've got to value relationships, and if you get enough great relationships, it's going to help you get that seat at the table because they're going to value you more. So a little less on the structure and the rigor if you don't have that seat at the leadership table, and really focus more on relationships. Number 3, sometimes they don't support and have it because they didn't earn it, right? They didn't get a seat at the table because they didn't earn that seat. Their PMO's a mess, their programs and projects are a mess, they don't have structure, they don't have rigor in place, right? They just frankly have not earned that seat yet, and therefore they're not getting that seat at that table. So you got to run a great organization, you got to have your stuff in order, your programs and your projects, you got to be executing, and once you get that execution going, you'll get the confidence, the leadership will give you that seat at that table. Does that make sense? Okay, before I continue, I've got to ask you a question. Do you have a seat at your leadership table right now? Can you sit and work with any of the executives, and do they bring you into these key strategic conversations because they know your PMO is a huge part of running a successful organization? Let me know in the comments below. I'm dying to understand, right? I'm dying to know. Okay, so what are some possible solutions? How do we get ourselves out of this mess? How do we get a seat at the leadership table? First, you have to earn and that respect with your executive team. They will not come naturally. You're going to have to earn it. You're going to have to earn it. You're going to be tested. You're going to have to pass that test, right? You're going to be tested again. You're going to have to pass that test. You have to gain the confidence with your leadership team to really get them to ask for your advice, ask for your feedback, and ask for you to sit at the leadership table and be active in that conversation. Number 2, you have to get your PMO house in order, right? You got to be running a world-class PMO. You got to have your programs or your projects executing. We got to see that execution. We've got to work with our customers. We got to build great relationships, right? But we got to make sure that we're driving a world-class PMO, and once you're doing that, people will recognize that, and they're clearly going to give you that seat at that table. Number 3, it's going to take time, right? You're not going to be able to get into a PMO role and immediately expect to be sitting at the leadership table. It's not going to happen, right? You've got to gain that confidence, you got to run that world-class organization, but give yourself time. Make sure you're not trying to rush to that leadership table. Make sure that you've got everything in order. You're cranking your PMO. Everyone's happy. Everyone's satisfied with the role. And then you'll get that seat at the table. But give yourself some time. It doesn't happen overnight. It will happen naturally. But you've got to be running this world-class PMO. What do you think? Does that make sense? If you like this video, you like these types of topics, definitely hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and then hit that bell notification because I'm releasing new videos all the time. I want to thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you online. And what's really important is watch my next video. I'm dealing with various implementations of development methodologies across waterfall, agile. I actually have that from a PMO perspective, and I have it from a project manager perspective, and I'll put them both on there so you can get access to them. Thank you very much. Build out here, and I'll see you online. Thanks.